Hi everyone, I'm going to do a demonstration on how to make the Japanese tea bowl, and we're going to use a 4-inch high by 12-inch long template. I have these for you cut out. If for some reason we did run out of them, they're very easy to cut out. 4 inches high by 12 inches across. So we're going to learn how to use a template with a slab and stamping for texture and depth and design. So I rolled out a slab. This slab is about 14 inches long by about 8 inches wide. So I made sure that I had enough clay to get a slab that is larger than my template. I do need some extra for the base, and I have plenty here. So the first thing I want to do is trace out and make sure that the template is on a really good part of the slab. So I'm not using the skinny edges or edges that are all frayed and jagged. So what I'm doing now is just tracing the template. I'm not cutting it out just yet. The reason I'm not cutting it out is because I'm about to stamp it, and it's going to distort the rectangle, and I'm going to have to put the template back on and straighten it out. So I'll show you what I mean. In class, I have many stamps to choose from. I'm going to go with the bamboo. I've done a couple of the tea bowls with the bamboo, and I want to do a set. So for me, I'm going to use this. With these flat rubber stamps, you're going to need a pony roller. So I know if I grab one of these, I'm going to have to grab one of these from the same bin. So I just want to show you some of the other stamp ideas that I have. I love finding these at flea markets. They're actually fabric stamps, but they work perfectly fine for clay. So you can use stamps like this. Try them out first. See how much pressure you need to put on in order to get a good impression, because you are going to need to make a good impression. And you want your stamps to show so that when you glaze them, that the glaze falls nicely in and out of the pattern. And the pattern is evident. You don't want to lose that because the glaze just fills everything in. Another type of roller I have are these red rollers. These are really nice. These are rubber rollers as well. And again, I would try them, see how much pressure you need to put on with your hand to know if, all right, I'm going to get a good impression by, putting that extra push into it. I have to push the red rollers in order to get a good impression. Just actually using it by hand and rolling it, you get too much of a faded or a very shallow indentation. And I don't want that. I want, again, my glazes to be able to show in and out of the pattern. I don't want them to drown the pattern out. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how to use this rubber stamp with the small little pony roller. So I'm going to figure out, do I want the foliage to go in or outward from my pattern? I'm going to do the foliage on the inside. So I'm going to line up this rectangle of a rubber stamp with my rectangle. Now, like this tea bowl, I'm going to make sure that my stamp is going to be on the upper portion of the tea bowl where I would drink from, so that it could actually be seen. We're going to be creating a darted foot, and so that's going to take away some of the size and also some of where you would stamp. So this is going to be the top where I would drink from. And I'm going to go ahead and take the pony roller, and I'm going to push so that it becomes one with the clay. It actually just pushes right down in there, and it makes a really good impression. I could just take a peek and see before I actually take it off completely, so I don't have to worry about putting it on the right way, and it made a good impression. So I'm going to go ahead and do the same exact. I'm going to have it match. You are going to be careful of how you put down the stamps and how neat you apply the stamp, getting a good impression, and the arrangement of the stamp. In the case of this, where I actually have to pick it up and place it back down versus rolling it straight across, you want to make sure that things match up nice and that you have a thought to how the pattern should look on the tea bowl. So I've done some stamping, so I want to put my template back on, line it up with the top, Now I can cut it out. I find cutting with the short knives for something this small easier. I'm not going to crumple up my scraps because I'm going to need them for the base. You're also going to need small coils for where the seams are. So here's my rectangular slab that's about to be turned into my T-bowl. Being that it's only 4 inches high, and this is very plastic clay, I could easily stand it upright and turn it into a cylinder. So it's going to go from a flat rectangle to a cylinder. Now I'm going to have an overlapping seam, and I can see that because the clay is about 1/4 inch thick, it's quite thick here. So I want to miter the edges. There's 2 ways you could do that. Most often I show students how to just take their knife and just very slowly just cut off one of the corners, or a 45-degree cut. So that's now on an angle and edged. So if I did the inside here, I need to do the outside because of the way they're going to match up as a seam. So the other thing I could do is take my pony roller and just on an angle, on a 45-degree angle, just flatten that out. Straighten that back out. So now I've got a flattened edge on the outside and a flattened edge on the inside, and my seam can overlap without so much bulk. Okay. Now, when joining 2 slab ends together, I'm going to have a seam. That's part of the charm, I believe, of hand building. And that is one person's opinion. You can see my seam here. Yes, it's hand built and it shows, and that's good. I'm going to score everything that meets. I need to do that. You're also going to have slip. We have that in class, but you can easily make your own with some bone dry clay and some warm water. I'm going to use a scruffy brush, and I'm going to put some slip. I'm just going to very gently push this together. And now I'm going to pick it up in my hand. So my hand cradles it, and I have this half circle going on with my hand. I can see the inside seam. I'm going to just gently pinch the outside seam and leave that. I'm not going to blend that in with any tools or any roller. Just leave that. The inside, you're going to take the wooden angle tool and you're going to smooth it over. You're going to bring the raised seam over into the barrel. And so you're going to smooth out the seam on the inside. My hand is protecting the shape, so it's not going to turn into a flattened cylinder. It's going to keep its shape. Turn that around and get the other side. So now I can see that my seam is joined. It's going to stay. All right. Next thing I need to do, I need to be aware that my stamping is here. My design is going to be where you drink from. So I need to turn this upside down now because I need to create the foot. The foot is going to have a base, and I need to make sure after I've completed blending that when I look down on this, I see a circle. I want it to stay in the cylinder shape. So I'm going to make darts. You do not have to use the seam as a point of what I'm going to make the registration marks on. You can go off to the side. It does not matter. So I'm going to do that. I'm just going to go off to the side, and I'm going to look down and actually divide my circle in half, make a little indentation. These are going to be referred to as registration marks. So I'm going to go north, south, east, and west. and that's what it'll look like. These are actually going to be the center of the darts that I'm going to cut out. Now, what is a dart? A dart is a shape that we're going to remove from the clay. In this instance, they're going to be triangular in shape. Most times, too, that I do mugs with darts, they're ovals. So we're doing a foot 1 inch across. I'm making marks. This registration mark is at the 1/2 inch point. I'm going to go 1 inch across and make marks, and 1 inch down. I only need to do this once. So here's what I have. I have my triangle marked out with that little dot right there, and then two lines on either side of the registration mark. Now I'm cutting out my triangle by using each side to meet that point. And now I've cut out my triangle. With this, I'm going to go over to the other registration on every side and use it as a template. And you're going to keep using the first triangle you cut out so that you know you're not changing the size. I use my hands as a guide so I don't go down too far, and I cut each side. So now I've got triangles cut out, north, south, east, and west. So this is what it looks like. All right, now I need to put this back together, and I'm going to give it a different look of a form. So the form is going to change just on the base. I have to score in each of those triangles. If you don't, they're going to want to pull away. I'm also going to add slip so they don't pull away. We want a good attachment. The slip acts like glue. Okay, so when I put back these two sides, I'm going to push in and down, in and down. And I'm just gonna give that seam a little squeeze and a pinch, and I'm gonna go around to each cut. Each triangular cut is gonna now attach. I've got my seam here. I like that a little bit off to the side. So you know you're successful in pushing it enough when your base turns into a rectangle. It's a little bit of a rectangle. It's not as severe of a rectangle as the template is, but now I'm looking at a square or a rectangle. And I'm smoothing out just where the joint is here. And now I can see inside, of course, those seams, I need to put a coil in, but not yet. The first thing I want to get is, before I start closing in any seams, I want to put a base on this. I'm going to use the larger of my scrap here. Okay, so I've got more than enough clay here to put down a base. And I'm just going to push it down on here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to wet the base so that when I put it down on here, I can see what I need to cut out. And I'm going to cut out a little bit more than I need. That really wants to stick. Okay, so now I can see my rectangle. You can see the glare there. And I'm just going to cut a little bit beyond there. So I want a little bit more than I need. And now that I've cut it out, I can size it. So, yep, it's a little bit bigger. And this is going to make the foot actually look nice. It's going to have a little lip on it. So I'm going to go ahead and score everything that needs to touch. So I can't stress this enough. Scoring and slipping, when it comes to slabs especially, is very important. I'm going to score the radius all around here and everything that it's going to touch on the base. And I'm going to add my slip. Have all your tools with you when you start this project. Now I'm going to put that on, give it a little push, make sure that it's straight on all sides. Okay, and with that little push, I'm going to use some water. I have water by my side here. And I'm going to pull this corner down into where my seam was. I'm going to just push this too. My hands have water on them, and that's why I could manipulate. The clay is in a very plastic stage. I'm working with soft slabs. The only way you can do this project is with soft slabs. So if you feel that your clay that you're working with is firming up, it doesn't have enough water in it, get a fresh piece of clay and work with soft slabs. So now I have this pony roller. I could further make sure that it's attached. And I'm going to make sure that my craftsmanship is well done for this piece. So now I can see this is my foot. I want to make sure that this stays circular. Now I need to seal those seams in there. So I'm going to drop super skinny coil, and I've got a lot of scraps here that work great as skinny coils. This came off from doing the foot. I'm just going to drop that down in there. I'm going to use my wooden angle tool, the blunt end, to manipulate that scrap piece of clay into all the seams. And that's what I'm doing here. I'm just manipulating that one piece into the seams, and I'm going to blend it. You're still going to see where the darts were, but you are not going to see, or you should not see, any kind of open lines. So it should be well blended. The base to the form and the darts inside, all blended. And now I've got a T-bowl that fits really nice in my hands. There's going to be some shrinkage with this, but not much. Using the red clay, it has more grog and there's less shrinkage. And then finally, I'm going to make sure where I would drink from is not harsh with a hard edge. So I just want to soften the edge. Make sure that it's circular. You don't want it to dry lopsided. Again, that's part of craftsmanship, is taking care to make sure how your work dries, because it's permanent. When it becomes bone dry, if your cylinder is off, if this is not circular, it's going to be very noticeable. Little variations obviously are fine, but you should have a nice circle right here. It should be comfortable to fit in your hand and to have the edges smooth, so that when you do use it in this stage, that all these edges are soft and not bulky and squared off. And that's it. Now I want to put my name underneath it. I have my pattern is up at the top. I've got the inside blended, and I'm back to a circular form, and I made sure that this was blended on. So that's your T-bowl. You get to have an experience in slab using stamps to create texture and design interest, and it goes with your Japanese rice noodle bowl. Thank you, everyone.